Hey everyone, so I did the reading that I've been avoiding, which is the Donald Trump, Joe Biden reading update about the energy going into this election that may give some insight into who may be winning. So I'm just going to go ahead and get into what I saw when I did my psychic meditation. So I saw Trump being very worried heading up to the election, checking the results constantly. I saw him like on the phone, like talking to people, lots of communication about what's going on, constant, updates, checking everything, just never any like every single moment of the day worrying about it. I saw him kind of beating himself up and being kind of like red in the face. However, I saw that towards the end of it, towards the end of like when the actual results come out, I saw him loosening up a little bit because it's like he's kind of like done everything he can, and so he starts to loosen up a little bit. And it's kind of funny because with Biden, I was seeing the complete opposite. I was seeing him being very relaxed. I'm just seeing him sitting down in what looks like a suit and tie and sitting, his leg over his knee, just chilling in a chair, just waiting. But then I saw, as things get closer and closer, him getting very serious and kind of losing that sense of cool. So I see visions or pictures, is another way you can describe it, of things that happen that are like messages. They're symbolic. And so I'm just going to read a couple of them that I saw when I was just asking for information about this, about the election coming up and Donald Trump and Joe Biden and where they're at. So I saw Trump sliding down this slide, and he slides into like this desolate area. There's just mountains all around, and it's just flat. And he's just kind of bewildered. He's like, "Where am I?" And he's totally alone. And there's a sense of isolation. And then out of the distance, I just see these figures like running in at him, like in a perfect circle around him, like coming in. And they're these like creatures that are kind of like brands that have arms and legs, and they're kind of like if a person was to dress up in a suit to advertise some brand. Some of them looked like they were like grapes for like grape soda or something like that, and others were just like random, white shapes with red lines like billboards, things of that nature. And they were all running at him, closing in on him, and he was starting to get worried. And they all just get to him, and it's almost like there's a party, sort of. It's almost like there's a celebration because they pick him up, and it's like he's crowd surfing on their hands. They're all holding him up, but it's there's something not great about it for him because it's not like they're doing it in his favor, and it's almost like he's being taken advantage of a little bit in this crazy celebration. And they start putting this cocoon around him, and like how a spider would wrap up a bug in its web. And then I saw him in a cave by himself, curled up in a fetal position. And I asked, "What is this? What is all this about? What does that cocoon represent?" And the words that came to me were first stock market, and then when I was like, "What does that mean?" Then I got the word dynasty. So kind of just like everything he's built up, it's kind of like he's trapped in his own web of his own doings. And I saw a different one. And these will kind of get more and more down to the point as they go. I saw Trump writing with a pen, but he can't. And I saw this African statue, and it was like somehow this African statue was like in his pen, which doesn't make any sense, obviously. But it was like jamming his pen somehow, and it made him angry. And when I asked what this was about, I saw an image of like African tribe, very tribal scene, and it. When I tried to understand what it was about like the African culture and that being an energy block for him when he's writing. And then I saw him stop writing, and when he stopped writing, it was like this light shone in from the window, and it was like as if he, like seen the light because he stopped writing, and it had to do with him trying to control the narrative by writing. And what this light was once he stopped trying to control the narrative and he just kind of stopped talking, or writing in this case, it was like a divine presence. And for him, it was like the Holy Spirit to him. But it was like, it's confusing because there was two modes to him. It was like he was tangled in this web at the same time, but then there's this Holy Spirit coming through, and it's like he felt like that was his true self when it came through, and like all these other things he had said wasn't even like really him. It's just like, when people get snappy and they just kind of go into a different mode, that's how he kind of was viewing it. And it was like he was kind of a victim of himself, if that makes any sense. And this was like such a high vibration that it was almost not functionable in the world. And because he couldn't sustain it himself based on his circumstances, there's like these two sides to him, and he would kind of snap back and forth between the two sides. And he would fall down into this narrative controlling side of him that was like really hot-headed, was how it was showing up specifically. And it's just too much of the world puts him into this egomania, which is obviously the opposite side of this like enlightened side to him, apparently. Next vision, I was seeing Donald Trump eating cotton candy, and then his son is standing behind him. Or he comes out of a vortex and then grabs him and like pulls him into this vortex. First of all, Donald Trump was like really kind of like minding his own business, kind of oblivious to everything, eating this cotton candy and like just trying to ignore everything. And then he goes into this vortex where his son pulls him into it. And then he's sitting in a desk having this political conversation with everyone, and he really doesn't want to be there. And it's like he just wants everybody to go away. And he doesn't want any responsibility. He just wants everybody to go away. But at the same time, it's like almost contradictory because he still wants the position. It's like he won't let go of the position, but he doesn't want the responsibility. So, next thing I saw, similar, Donald Trump is sucking on a lollipop. He has a lollipop, and as he's handing it to someone. I look who he's handing it to, and it's Joe Biden, strangely enough. And so Joe Biden takes it, and Donald Trump like snaps his hands and disappears, just like into thin air. Sorry. And it was like almost like he was doing some sort of magic trick. And Joe Biden was like, what? Like, almost like, oh, you just kind of, all right, just kind of did that. And then I asked, like, what is this? What does this mean? I got that the lollipop for Joe Biden represents, and the way that I saw it, the image that was shown to me was a woman ice skating, like dancing, and him just like watching in awe, and being distracted. And that was basically the message. And then when I asked what was this about, like Donald Trump disappearing, all I really got was something like somehow he's using that to get money somehow. Somehow him disappearing is like him like is like gonna do a disappearing act to get money apparently somehow. I don't know exactly what that means. These are just symbolic in nature. Next one, I saw Biden as a frog. So he was represented by this frog, and on his back was a smaller frog who was a queen frog, and he was taking orders from this frog. He was kind of taking orders from the queen frog who was on his back, and he was jumping from lily pad to lily pad. And I saw this as like a circle of lily pads that are spinning, and he jumps and the thing kind of spins, and he jumps and the thing spins and it spins and it spins infinitely. Um, and he was jumping on it, and there was this one lily pad that just, I don't know how I knew it. It just was like an inner knowing, but it represented Trump. And when he landed on it, he was scared, and he felt like he was gonna get squashed because he's a frog in this picture. and and previously he had this aura of him of being like super cool, like hip kind of energy, like like maybe he should be like wearing sunglasses, like that frog with sunglasses or whatever. But when he landed on this lily pad, he got scared. His heartbeat went way up, and he started sweating on his forehead. And there's something like there might be a fly swatter coming, so he jumped off the lily pad. And then there's like a different round of lily pads, a circle of lily pads that he jumped onto. And by doing so, he got out of the spotlight, but he was no longer so hip and cool, is what was coming up. So there's that. I saw Joe Biden laughing hysterically, sitting on a chair at a talk show, on TV with a big crowd, talking crap about Donald Trump, and the crowd was cheering and laughing, and he was really going at it. Like he was really kind of going out of his way to really like viciously attack Donald Trump, and it was kind of taking a lot of effort out of him. Like he was really pushing himself to do it, and I saw he was kind of wearing himself out, and he had the sense of being a tired dog. Like that was what came up. It was like a tired, kind of like whimpering dog. Maybe not whimpering, but like the expression of a dog that's just kind of like exhausted. And there was something about him. Well, he's just laughing hysterically, and there's something about him missing something, and him being like, "Oh shit," and that was that image that I saw. And then there's a thing about Biden pacing back and forth, his hand on his forehead, he's looking down, and it has something to do with a retrograde. Like if you were to have a retrograde in astrology where you're thinking about all the things in the past, and you're like, oh, all the things that may have bothered you from your past. Next thing I saw was a crown coming down and landing on Biden's head, on Joe Biden's head. And this is a strange one, but then I saw him throwing something at a wall. It was like an explosive or something, and it like blew a hole in the wall. And he's in a school, as strange as that is, and there's all these kids sitting in their desk, and they're all looking at him like, whoa, like what's going on? What's he doing? And he runs through the hole in the wall, and then runs out the school, and then goes down the street, and there's some guy with a dog. Looks like Secret Service type of dude or somebody, some sort of authority figure of some sort with this dog. And he sees him and he like stops and then turns around and starts running. And then the dog sees that. The dog was like very nonchalant, but then once he sees that, he's like, oh, what's going on? And so the dog starts running after him with the guy holding on to the leash with him, strangely enough, them like both running together, and then chases him back into the school where he was, and the dog barks really loud and hurts his ears, and it causes him to give up his crown to this dog. And then I just see the dog eating food. And the style I like to do, what I'm kind of testing out, is I'm not giving my interpretation as much as I'm just giving the symbolism and the messages the way that I got it. Although I do have some sense of inner knowing about what this represents, but I like to just give people the messages themselves to. It's just a different way of sharing the information. So hopefully this isn't too confusing. Next one, I saw Biden writing, and Trump walks into the room with a giant elephant. Elephant in the room. But anyways, this elephant is representing an energy that is in Donald Trump's energetic field. And this energy is like it's an energetic being. In some sense, it's an energy that is alive, and it has an agenda of some sort. And what it does is it creates this really loud egomania type of sense for Donald Trump, because he's kind of loud, and it also simultaneously is kind of what I was saying in that picture before about him having like this sense of the Holy Spirit taking over him, and like this energy separates that from him and makes him more of an egomaniac. I see Joe Biden in response to this loud just like this loud energy, puts his forehead on his palm and he's like, oh, I can't concentrate. He completely loses his focus on what he's writing, and he can't get anything done with the presence of Donald Trump. Like, even if he's not there physically, just like energetically, he's like in his space, like his auric bubble, so to speak, on some level. And it's like kind of like bullying towards Joe Biden. Got the sense that he was kind of being a bully, and Joe Biden was crying, although I don't think this is like Joe Biden literally crying. I think this is more like on a very, very subtle, energetic level. You could say maybe on some level he was crying inside at one point. And Trump is kind of doing this on purpose because for him it's part of his strategy, apparently. Biden gets angry, and I see a photo of him like on the phone, like calling people and like complaining about Donald Trump and how he can't handle this. Or like, but not so much he can't handle it, but how can we get Trump to stop, basically, is where he's at. And I just see Donald Trump like standing in the hallway staring at him and just like not leaving, and it's just like making it impossible for him to focus and get anything done or accomplish anything. Regardless of the results of the election, what I was seeing was Biden being very cool about the results of the election. I saw him with this blue energy about it, and just like not being fazed by it at all, regardless of whether he wins or loses. Trump, regardless of whether he wins or loses, I'm seeing him with this red, furious energy, or just red about it, and like he's beating himself up, and he's got a red face, and I mean that's probably more of a symbol than literally, although maybe he will have a red face too, I don't know. But I see him going through a lot, like he's almost tormenting himself about it, like beating himself up, and it's gonna be a big deal for him. Next thing I saw, Donald Trump opening up a window and there's a big crowd of people who are cheering. And I saw Joe Biden opening up a window, and it was nighttime, and people had candles, and it was very quiet, and it was heartfelt, and there is this sense of purpose. And it was almost as if there is this moment of silence for something that may have been bad that happened, that they want to kind of heal through this moment of silence. And I didn't see anyone celebrating, although I didn't see Joe Biden being like shooken up about losing or anything like that either. But I didn't get the sense that they were celebrating him winning, as opposed to when I saw Donald Trump. It looked more like they were celebrating him winning. But regardless, I saw Joe Biden being very thankful and like honoring his supporters, and just this sincere, thankful vibe that kind of radiated from him, and like everybody could really kind of like vibe at this like wholehearted sense of purpose that they all felt that they had as a group. Regardless, those are the types of energies that I'm seeing. I also don't really consider myself a fortune teller. I do make guesses at the future, but what I really do is I read energy, and the future is not set in stone. So keep that in mind. And hopefully this video doesn't upset too many people. Thanks for watching. And if you enjoyed this, you can give it a thumbs up. Check out the rest of my channel. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Give it a thumbs up. Click that notification bell. Click it to all notifications. Thank you. And have a good one.